Hello, friends. Welcome to the 10th episode of Season 2 of the Schoolyard Podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in Fifth on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. This is the Schoolyard Podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. Teachers are influencers. I'm not just talking about social media, but I'm referring to the impact we make on a daily basis. Teachers hold unique positions of power in shaping not only their immediate students' lives, but also the broader educational community through their words, actions, and online presence. By consistently modeling empathy, growth mindset, ethical behavior, and genuine enthusiasm for learning, they create ripple effects that inspire both students and fellow educators to embrace these same qualities. Their influence extends far beyond academic content as they demonstrate how to handle challenges gracefully, treat others with respect, and maintain professionalism while sharing authentic experiences that others can learn from. As education becomes increasingly connected through social media and online platforms, the responsibility to be a positive role model becomes even more crucial, as a single post or interaction can impact thousands of educators and students across the globe. There's this sweet spot between keeping it real and keeping it uplifting. That's exactly where the magic happens. Sure, we're going to have days when the copy machine jams again, the lesson flops, or we're running on way too much caffeine. And guess what? Sharing those moments authentically actually helps everyone feel seen and supported. But the hard part is showing others how we navigate those challenges with grace, humor, and an honest but hopeful attitude, rather than just slapping a good vibes only sticker on everything. When you share both your victories and your vulnerable moments while focusing on growth and solutions rather than dwelling in negativity, you're showing your students and fellow teachers that it's perfectly okay to be human and keep moving forward. After all, we're not aiming for perfect Instagram-worthy classrooms every day. We're creating spaces where real learning, genuine connections, and meaningful growth can thrive. Today's guest, Juan Edgar Gonzalez Jr., a return guest on the Schoolyard Podcast, is a ripple effect starter himself. He is a dear friend of mine who is also known as Teaching Third with Mr. G. He's an elementary teacher from Houston, Texas, well known and well loved for his love of literacy. Juan is one of the main speakers at one of the biggest teacher conferences in the nation and is a resident blogger for Scholastic. Juan, welcome back to the Schoolyard. Hello.
What's up, Nancy? Thank you for having me again. I'm excited to be here.
It's so great to see you, even if it's through a screen. I'm like,
I
Juan.
know. And
Well,
I guess for
welcome
people
back.
who don't know, we spent the summer together. We went to Japan together and
And had so much
we
fun.
had so much fun. And now we're just going to be travel BFFs forever.
That's right. That's right. So let's rewind to day one. What made you take that first step into Instagram as a teacher?
Yeah, so the reason I decided to get onto social media was because I was looking for community. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was about 5 years into my teaching game, and I
Mm-hmm.
still hadn't found community within my own school building. And I was going home every day, like looking for answers, looking for what other teachers were doing. And at that time, the blog world was really big, and teachers were
Mm-hmm.
posting blogs. And then all of a sudden, social media started to become a place for teachers to showcase their life. And then I remember feeling like I could do this. Like I want to show my life and see like who can relate to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I just needed an outlet that I didn't have in my own bubble, in my real life bubble. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where it started. I was looking for community.
Wow. How long ago was that?
2015,
Oh,
2015.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh. I want to scroll way back and see what your first post was.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I know. I can't remember what my first one was, but I'm going to scroll back and look
Yeah.
at your first post. Well, was there like a specific moment or a student interaction that made you think, I need to share this with the world?
I think it was just the like the feeling of like, wow, this is working really well in my classroom. Who can I share this with? Because I
Mm,
know what it's like. This job is it changes every year, right? And we have a different amount, population of students that we serve every year. And so the same things that work one year doesn't work the other year. So it's ever
right.
changing. And I know now more than ever the importance of sharing knowledge and sharing things that work and don't work. And sometimes we don't get that from the curriculum. It only comes with life experience. And some of the best strategies and the best teaching that I do has come from watching other teachers, from talking with other teachers. And so when I just remember having this feeling of like, this really works for me, or this, we need to. And I also remember just wanting to build an authentic love for literacy, especially in the upper elementary, where I felt like a lot of times because standardized testing was coming into play. A lot of times, students were growing up to believe reading are just the passages that we look at.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just had this like really deep desire to say, this is a piece of what we do, but it's not all that we do. And so just trying to keep that conversation alive for the betterment of the students that we serve.
Right. I didn't even know that there was a whole teaching community that existed on social media. And one of my coworkers was telling me, "Oh yeah, I follow this teacher," and she was telling me some hashtags to follow. And I
Mhm.
discovered a whole world that I didn't even know existed. And
Yep.
I think I've been following you for many, many years too, but we just haven't like interacted, a lot
Yeah,
until like the recent few years. But like people who know me are probably sick of hearing me say this, but I feel like social media, Instagram and TikTok both are the best PDs for, for anything, like whether it's like the latest teaching strategies or like the ed tech programs and apps. Like I learned so much from other teachers.
I totally agree.
And hopefully other people are learning from me too. And I remember like, Instagram has come a long way. Before it was like a blog post where you just had like a really pretty picture and then the caption just, said like told all the details and everything. But now we could watch reels and it's like, quick little tutorials of how to teach something, how to present something or how to decorate or, it's just
Mhm.
everything is right there at our fingertips.
Yes.
Right, the whole evolution of it. Well, one thing that you're really known for, well, I always think of Juan, and I always think like your positivity and your warm smile just comes through so much, and so genuine. And that energy and positivity really is contagious. When people ask you, how are you always so positive? What's the real story? Is there a person, a philosophy, or a daily practice that keeps your optimism tank full? Now you're smirking. I know our listeners can't see you, but you're smirking. And I'm like, you don't have to tell everyone that you're not always so positive. They don't have to
No,
know that. No. So what do
I'm
you
I'm
like? Yeah.
I'm smiling because that was a very nice thing to say. So thank you for saying that.
Oh,
It's very nice.
and I truly
Um,
mean it.
Thank you, thank you. I think positivity, there's a quote that I would like to share with you. If you give me a second, I'll look it up real quick because I have it on file all the time. It's from
Mhm.
the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, the main character is married to her husband in the movie is somebody who's very optimistic and is always like looking at the bright side of things. And the wife in the story is a lot more pessimistic. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a part in the story where the husband says, "When I choose to see the good side in things, I'm not being naive. It's strategic and necessary. It's how I learn to survive through everything." And
Mm-hmm.
that line, I remember when I heard in the movie theater, and every time I read it, I get chills because I
Mm-hmm.
realized it put into place what positivity always was for me. It
Mm-hmm.
is a form of survival. And I think even as a kid, I was always like a positive kid. I was always looking on the bright side of things. But I've had this question asked of me many times, and talking with people. Part of my journey of where I am today is not just all of the teaching and all the amazing things that came from this career. I'm also a cancer survivor. I went through chemotherapy at the age of 18, and so like I stood at the end of life, and I knew. That there was a chance that there was a huge possibility that life was over for me. And so I'm so grateful every single day that I came back from that and that I get to live this full life. And I've even I was 18 then. That really, the hardest part of that journey went from 18 until I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, I just think a lot of what I faced and and already facing death,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of better words,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of changes your perspective on a lot of things. And I
Mm-hmm.
always say, I don't know what it is about the human experience. It's not until we get like knocked over the side of the head do we ever really learn the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that my journey, because I did have that knocking on the head, and I've learned that lesson, it's really important for me to stay positive because I live with gratitude every single day that I even get to
Wow.
be here, that I've been here this long, ever
Mm-hmm.
since, what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge part of where it comes from. And absolutely, I have negative thoughts and I have like bad days, but I'm really good about like tap like there are some days where I have to live in it and I have to like feel the
Mm-hmm.
negativity,
Mm-hmm.
but I do have this little voice in the back of my head that's quickly telling me like get out, there's it's not going to feel nothing here feels good. This isn't productive. Let's go.
Yeah, wow. I still remember our long train ride when you first shared about your experience at being a cancer survivor, and I had
Mhm.
no idea. And your story was so touching. So like as you're talking, it just was like bringing back all these like flashbacks of like memories.
Yeah.
So, do you share that openly? Do you share that like publicly with people?
I do. I've shared it. I've done a couple keynotes where I share this story.
Wow.
Um, one of the biggest things of when I went through cancer, and at that time, um, I remember I was the first in my family to get diagnosed with cancer. I didn't experience cancer with anyone else. It was only me. And so through
Wow.
that journey, I remember so desperately just wanting to hear a story from someone else who had gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yes, anytime kind of like life presents itself where someone can benefit from hearing that story,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I try to share it.
Wow, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing that. And such an early age too, 18 to
Mm.
20. Wow. Wow. And when some people face hardships like that and challenges, it's so easy to be bitter and angry. Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? But I love that you chose to be optimistic and chose to be positive and like take life as a gift every day. So, thank you. You're amazing.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that, Nancy, because it took a while for me to get here, right? It wasn't always like I didn't automatically attach to positivity. I remember there were days where I was sitting in the chemo chair and I was bitter. Like I was mean to my parents. I wasn't
Oh.
talking. And I still
Mhm.
remember in the chemo chair, there was a gentleman who sat next to me that would try to hold conversations with me and I would just ignore him.
Yeah.
And I would just like keep my headphones on. And I remember one day he was just like kind of fed up with me not responding to him. And he looked at me and he said, "Young man, I want you to remember one thing." He's like, "It could be worse. It could be
Oh,
worse." And when he said that to me, it just kind of like opened up my eyes of like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm
uh-huh.
fighting. Like, why am I going to be upset? Why am I going to be bitter? And then that kind of began, I will never forget that began the journey of kind of finding positivity within, this really negative time in my life. So it's
Yeah.
funny that you brought that up.
Oh, no, you're making me cry. I mean, I cry easily, but oh my goodness. Can you imagine like if a teacher is complaining like this is so hard. Oh, this is really difficult and like if somebody else came and said, "Listen, it could be worse." Can you imagine the reaction? Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you for sharing that. My face is getting all warm and I'm getting all teary-eyed. So I need to like collect myself.
Introducing the new Sharpie Creative Marker. Paint like ink that draws on wood, metal, glass, ceramic, canvas, paper, rock, almost anything. Guaranteed to never bleed. 12 vivid colors that pop on light and dark surfaces. With the new Sharpie Creative Marker, the world is your canvas. To learn more, visit schoolspecialty.com/Sharpie.
Snoozlin knows the true power of a multisensory room comes from letting students choose the experiences they need. It may look like simply changing a color or sound, but those choices can change a mood, or a day, or a life. Snoozlin, only from schoolspecialty.com. The right environment can transform more than classrooms. Classroom Select helps you create the right environment for your students with a wide selection of quality, affordable furniture for pre-K through 12th grade. Classroom Select, only at schoolspecialty.com.
And we're back. Okay. So when we were in Japan,
Mhm.
it was so funny because I think we were in Harajuku in a
Mhm.
very, very crowded shopping area. And we were like going in and out of like these really crowded, busy stores. And we ran into one of our followers, right? I think I had just come out and somebody said like, "Was that Fancy Nancy?" And I had, like passed that past I was a little too far ahead and I couldn't hear her calling me. And I think you said, "Yes, it is." And she looked at you and said, "Oh my gosh, teaching third with Mr. G." And so globally, we're running into our followers like in other countries. Like that's wild. But can you share a moment when someone else's comment or a message made you realize just how far your positive influence reaches beyond your classroom walls?
Yeah, and just hearing that
Japan is
story
one.
again.
Yeah.
Right, hearing that story, like, you just never know, right? Because when you're posting, it's just on your phone and you see the comments come through and, those types of experience. Because it's happened to me as well, like, when I was in London and I was visiting schools in London, I walked into observe a teacher's classroom, and the teacher was like, I know who you are, and, "Oh my gosh, you're in my
Yeah.
classroom," and so you don't ever
Uh-huh.
know, like, who's looking at the things that you're sharing. But I
Uh-huh.
think for me, one of the parts that or why I want to continue sharing, and I'm so grateful for the platform, is when people tell me like, "I still read this book because of you,"
Wow.
or those conversations that mean so much to me because I share the stories that I fall in love with because I know how powerful it is for the students that are listening to it, but also what it does for my teaching instruction.
Mhm.
And for me, that's like what keeps me coming back to find those things that really are universal and just creating a positive effect in either our instruction or a way to build relationships with students.
Mhm.
I love those messages and those comments or those emails, to
Yeah.
just say like you helped me.
Mhm.
Because I just know, like I said, this profession, as much as I love it, and it's the only job that out of all the jobs that I have, it's the job that makes me most happy. It's still,
Oh.
with like everything in life comes with its faults,
Uh-huh.
and because of how hard it is, I
Mhm.
think it's important to find those moments of like trying to help each other because I know how difficult it can be.
Mhm. Wow. That is so true. Now, do you have a personal like recharge ritual when your battery runs low? What keeps you fueled and inspired to create content and the content that lifts others up? I always like to get together with my fellow teachers and friends and get together for either happy hour or going and trying like new foods and going to like fun restaurants. Do you have a recharge fuel? I think I know what it is, but I'm going to ask you anyways. What
Yeah.
is a recharge fuel for you?
For me, it's disconnecting from the world and hiding under a blanket.
Oh.
It's so funny because like being on social media, I still am very much naturally like an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in those moments where I'm not feeling like myself or I'm not feeling motivated or I'm not inspired or I don't feel like being creative, I know that's when I need some like alone time, some me time. So it isn't about, and I know like for you, I completely understand why you would love to hang out with friends because you do recharge from like being around
I'm
people.
I'm an extreme extrovert.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And for me, it's I need my alone time. Like I just need to lay in bed, I need to read a book, I need to
Yeah.
listen to music, and I just need a
Go
little
into
bit
your
of that
cave.
time. Yes, definitely. It's my personal cave. I don't want to see
Mhm.
the world. I don't want to see
Mhm.
people. And then once I have that moment, I can start kind of building back to the to the good stuff.
I thought you were gonna say Disneyland.
Oh yes. Well, even then, but that's still people, right? Like it's
Oh,
still
true.
so it's not necessarily it's a different I think for any time so I am a very Disney parks I love very much.
Mm-hmm.
But for me when I visit those, it is a recharge of creativity. I just love the lore behind the rides and how how they really try to make really fun experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, Disney is my creativity recharge.
Mm.
And a lot of that
But
I
you
bring.
cheated on Disneyland this weekend and went to Knott's Berry Farm.
Yes, to not. Yes, I did. It's good to see other things, but you'll always have like your original love.
True, true. Okay. Now, and when you go to Disneyland, do you ever go by yourself or are you always going with other people?
No, well, before Japan, I did a solo trip and I hung
Oh,
out at Disneyland. It's
right.
not the same because I want to experience the quote unquote magic with others. I want to,
Uh-huh.
see things happen through other people's eyes.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not opposed to doing it alone, but I much rather do that with people.
Oh, got it. So I'm ashamed to admit that I'm not that big of a Disney person. You already know. We had
Mhm.
Carlonda Miller on our last
Oh yeah,
episode or one of our episodes, and she's a crazy Disney fan, right?
it
And
is.
she's like, "You have to come with me, and I will show you Disneyland through an eyes of an adult with like Disneyland cocktails and like this and that."
Yeah,
And she's like, "I will make you experience the magic." I'm like, maybe we need to do one of those where like you can show me like you can tell me all the stories behind all the rides and everything, and
yeah.
and Carlonda could show me all the drinks and I
Perfect.
love Disneyland.
Perfect. We'll actually start at Disney Japan, so we'll have to go back
All
Disney
right.
Tokyo because
Yes.
we did everything in Tokyo together except that.
Yes. Yes. And then you're leading two separate groups, two different groups to
Mhm.
Japan next summer, right?
I
And we'll
am.
be in separate countries. I'll be in Korea, you'll be in Japan.
Yes, and we're still
Okay.
trying to like find a way. How can we make it
I know, it's too
cross?
close. It's too close.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you love sharing about books and anything like literacy related. Is that would you say that's your favorite types of content to create? And why is that your favorite content?
Yeah, like I said, when I share, because I think literacy is so under utilized in classrooms,
Mm-hmm.
because literacy is one of the hardest academic subjects to teach, and
Mm-hmm.
so we do resort to the curriculum a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
because life is, to me, teaching books and teaching literacy is like teaching life because that's where we get our connections and we get to learn about themes and we learn information about the world. And so just like life, literacy is messy. And because it's messy, I think sometimes it doesn't, it's hard to jump into, especially because the work we do is messy. And so
Right.
sometimes I really do feel like literacy is under utilized.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sharing really good teaching strategies when it comes to literacy, or really good books that are just easy to share with students and create that engagement with reading, is really important for me. But now, like more than ever, like I love posting content like when it feels exciting. There was a while when I was operating from like looking for content, but now
Mm-hmm.
I just wait for like those sparks of greatness that happened, because then I'm really energetic and excited to share because
Mm-hmm.
I really saw the value in it, or it was just this really fun, great moment that I want to hurry up and get out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know one of your favorite books is Wild Robot.
Hmm.
You saw the movie, right?
Did.
I haven't seen the movie. What
Okay.
did you think?
I mean, always the book is better, right?
Oh,
Book is always
uh-huh.
better, which is
Uh-huh.
why, but I'm not like, I don't want to like, it was a great movie,
I
but
heard it was so
if you're
beautifully
listening.
made.
Oh, it's gorgeous. The
Mm-hmm.
audio, the character. I mean, it's a beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you are an original Wild Robot person from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning and you know the novel just is fantastic. I was able to take our first third grade field trip. We actually went to the movies to go see the movie.
Oh,
And it was so funny because the students were all talking in the movie, but they weren't talking because they were disengaged. They were talking because they couldn't believe so many differences they were experiencing. They were like, "Where's
oh,
this character?" And this didn't
yeah.
happen. This, and so it was a really great experience for them to see how different a novel and a movie can be. So
Mm-hmm.
once I was able to kind of categorize the movie as like movie adaptation, novel adaptation, you can find respect for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and that's why I think sometimes you can make movies out of books, because then it brings people to the books. And so I
True.
hope for those who have never seen the movie or have never read the book, when they see the movie, it'll kind of do the vice versa.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so yeah, so
It's
it was good. I
true.
mean, it was good, but the no, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, every year that I read The Wild Robot, I cry at the
Mm-hmm.
end.
Oh, uh-huh.
And even though I saw many people crying at the movies,
You didn't
I didn't cry
cry?
in the movie. I didn't cry in the movie. I didn't.
Wow. Okay. Well, one of my favorite books to read with the kids is Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper, and
Mhm.
that movie's coming out, so I can't wait. And so like, and same thing, I'll probably be like, no, that's not how I
Yes,
imagined it in my head. So, I can't wait. But I
yeah.
want to like reach out to the students who I read that book with and say, hey, meet me at the movies, you know. Don't you wish
Yes.
like okay, so I know with like, all these like laws and everything, like we can post our students and like their reactions, but wouldn't it be
Mhm.
so amazing if you could record them and, share their reactions with the world and how
Oh,
like fun that would
100%.
be, right? The
Yes.
everyday interactions. Well,
And
that brings,
and
yeah, no, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, I was going to say, um, it was so funny because, that book is something that I've been reading for many years. And so the reason I keep reading it to students is because they fall in love with the characters. And so they associate me with that story.
Oh,
And so
uh-huh.
you wouldn't believe, like, I got about like 15 emails from past students, like,
Oh,
Mr. G, what theater are you going to go watch it? Can we
oh
go
my
watch it?
gosh. Uh-huh.
Or just giving me their reviews
Uh-huh.
of the book based off
Uh-huh.
the movie.
Uh-huh.
And so like those are like those little teacher moments that like you don't ever anticipate or you never knew would come, but are
Yeah.
so special.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so speaking of like, sharing, um, sorry. Okay, so we talked about like maybe sharing like the students' reactions or student responses and how we can't really like post those. I mean, maybe if it doesn't show their faces, but how do you decide what to share and what to keep private, especially when it involves your students or classroom?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, there was no rules in place yet. We
Right.
didn't, there was, we didn't know what was okay, what wasn't okay. So it was very easy to just kind of reach out to parents and say like, hey, I'd love to show this with the world. Could I do it? And then parents would be okay with it, and that's
Mhm.
fine. But I think now in this modern world, and as social media has grown bigger than we knew it to be, what we knew it was then, and just for like safety reasons and personality differences, I think
Mhm.
for me, it's just knowing like boundaries and it's like knowing my intentions behind the sharing. Now, while and it also is kind of cool because then it's like those little like special moments that only exist in the classroom and you can only experience because you're a teacher. If
Mhm.
you want to experience those, then you have to go out and be a teacher because
That's true. Yeah.
um, it's a really special thing. And while I would love to have like a camera crew catching those aha moments or those really funny conversations,
Mhm.
um, it's not doable. And it's also not like respectful to just, because I also think about the third grader who grows up to be the adult who wants to live a private life, who doesn't want like their pictures
Mhm.
of themselves like out and about. And so I think I've really pulled back on that.
Mhm.
But I can still showcase those moments in different ways with still respecting people and respecting, different
Mhm.
preferences and things like that.
Mhm.
But ultimately, you're right. I would love to capture all those moments and share it with the world.
Yeah, because they're
Um,
so fun.
they're
Like
they're
kids
so
say the
fun.
darndest things, right? And they're just, they just keep me, I feel like they're always making me laugh and cry
Yes.
and entertained.
And I still remember during the pandemic, there was soon after school closed down and we were having like all of our Zoom class meetings and it was one of my students' birthday
Hmm.
and we sang happy birthday to him on Zoom. And I remember that like I shared it because I mean, pandemic, we were teaching online. It was nothing we had ever done before.
Hmm.
And one of my parents said, I recorded this. You should share it. So I shared it. And then it was like on my local like media. And
Oh
so I
my
just think like
gosh.
moments like that where it's just like historic things like a pandemic and having to teach
Mhm.
online, of course that's just interesting moments to share, but the day to day you can only see when you're a teacher, so you got to
Yeah,
come join the fun.
that's right. That's right. So, for teachers who want to be a force for good on social media but don't know where to start, what's your top piece of advice for building an authentic, positive presence while maintaining healthy boundaries?
Hmm. And this has also is a question I get a lot. And you really do have to show up to this space as yourself and believe in your message and believe in your story and not look at the other side because the grass is always greener, or just because it works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Hmm.
And just believe in building like for me, like I always told you, it was just I needed a community. I needed something to connect outside of my own bubble.
Hmm.
And never did I imagine it would take me to the places that taken me now.
Mm-hmm.
But as simple as that answer is, you really do have to show up as yourself, because reflecting now, those very first posts was always just me being me. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the ultimate thing, because you don't ever want to share something that isn't you or starts to feel like it's inauthentic to who you are or the work that you do. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
know your story, believe in yourself, believe in your story, and show up as yourself, and build
Mm-hmm.
your community.
I love that. And people will sniff out the phonies, right?
Oh,
When somebody's
100%.
not being themselves, people know, and people are just attracted to people who are vulnerable, who are authentic and genuinely themselves, and people just are attracted to that.
Hmm.
And we don't want everyone to be the same either. And so,
Right,
like, even if you are a little quirky and weird or different, like show that side of you, right?
right.
And people are always like, find that niche, like find out what your niche is or what your thing is that is, like share that. And I was like, I still haven't figured out what mine is. I feel like I like a little bit of everything. It could be classroom decorations or hands-on activities or arts and crafts. I'm kind of all over the place, but I feel like that's me, kind of
Yeah.
like that, bouncing around. Like my ADHD totally just kind of like takes over. Um, so, in your personal experience, what is the best thing that came out of you being on social media besides our friendship?
That was my answer. So,
Aw. I mean,
no,
you have made some amazing friendships with like groups of like close friends where you have matching tattoos. Can we talk
yes.
about that really fast too? Like,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
that is my answer. It's the friendships.
Hmm.
And I mean, this social media has also taken me around the world, different countries.
Yeah.
I've, worked with different companies. I've done things that I never knew teaching would take me to. And I'm grateful for all of those opportunities, and I love those. But the best part is making these really close friendships outside, like, because I think, like, as you become an adult, making friends isn't as simple as it was when you're like in more social places in college and things like that. And
Hmm.
so to find people in different states that you just are in love with and you love building a friendship with them, that means so much to me, because it's harder to do in this day and age.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do have a group of core friends that I text daily. We have matching tattoos together. It's just, and you can never plan for these kinds of things, but this
Right.
is the amazing thing that happens when you put yourself out there, when you try something out of your comfort zone. Look at all the amazing things that can come from it.
Yeah. Well, you have to tell our listeners what the tattoo is of.
Yeah, so the matching tattoo, and by the way, I didn't have any tattoos prior to this. I was never going to be a tattoo person, but
Uh-huh.
it was just, just one of those like really fun life moments where it's like, let's do it. But our
Uh-huh.
tattoo is a folded paper airplane with
Hmm.
like it's just a very small paper airplane. And it was just kind of like our reminder to each other that even like when we're apart, we are always just ready to fly to each other and support each other and be with each other. So it was just,
Oh.
that's a little easy meaning behind it.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. I'm gonna just do a fake tattoo. I'll be like, wait, you weren't with us. I'll be like, tattoos too. No, I'm just kidding. No, okay. So we have a segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners write in with a question and we answer it. And so I picked a fun one for this episode because you know me, I always make you try. Like when we were traveling in Japan together, I think the highlight was us like trying all these different foods from 7-Eleven and it's all over the place and
Yes.
watching and documenting your reaction, which was so fun. So today's question comes from Melinda H. And her question is, if you could pick one dish, like one like cuisine or one, this food item that you are most like, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's such a good question.
You can't choose.
Um, uh, I would just, I love food.
Me
And I think
too.
that's,
Uh-huh.
I think, why Nancy and I just had a ball in Japan. So I'm gonna go with Japanese cuisine,
Uh-huh.
just because it is. And if I had to pick one dish, oh, it would be like just. Oh gosh, this is such a hard question. I'm gonna
Right?
stick with just Japanese cuisine, because
Okay.
when you go to Japan, there is just a plethora of options that you can go for. just you can go for a soup, you can go for a rice, you can go for a delicious like protein dish. And so I
Mhm.
love having options. And I think I've realized that about myself, is that knowing that we are not just one thing, we are many things. And so even now, that's why it's so hard for me to come up with one dish to say who I am.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
would be like just like a mosh podge of Japanese food everywhere,
Oh.
just everything, because we are all the things, not all at once, but
Mhm.
so I can't label
Oh.
myself as just one, but it would
Okay, so
definitely be
you know
Japanese.
our love of onigiri, right?
Oh
The little
yes.
rice balls, the little rice ball or rice triangle. And as you're talking, I that just came to my head, my mind, and I was like,
Mm,
you know what? If I could describe you as a cuisine, maybe a Japanese cuisine, I
mhm,
would I would pick onigiri for you because it seems it's such a simple dish. It's just
mhm,
like a rice with the seaweed, on the outside with some like a different, filling on the inside.
mhm,
But the filling is what makes it. The filling is wonderful. It seems so like simple and, like not as like glamorous on the outside, but the inside is filled with this wonderful goodness. And it's just a comfort food. It's like brings comfort. So I'm
yeah.
gonna say you're an onigiri.
Okay, I'll take it. And it comes in different flavors, different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cheap. No, I was kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you're like, you just took a nice thing and just,
Yes.
you
Thanks
know.
a lot.
No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
kidding.
No, it's been so fun chatting with you. I don't know why we don't do this more often. We could, could just FaceTime or get on Zoom and just, I don't know, like have
The
a
problem is
meal on like virtually together or something.
the problem is we won't ever get off. So
Oh,
I have to
that's true.
separate. I have to be careful.
That's true. That's true. But we do have to get together soon, whether it's at Disneyland or in Vegas or Japan, wherever it may
Mhm.
be. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person so I could give you a big hug. But thank you
Same.
so much for coming back on the Schoolyard podcast and being such a wonderful guest. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Bring me back.
Yay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Schoolyard Podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag, you're it. Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard Podcast for our segment called Tag, You're It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter at School Specialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag You're It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. If your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard Podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.